Hearing my own son label me a clueless fool should have stung more. But after 20 years married to Diane, I'd grown a thick hide for family letdowns. I was in my shed out back, smoothing a maple table for the Wilsons' dining room redo in Spokane, Washington, when Owen's voice slipped through the air duct above my workbench. Our old bungalow in Lincoln County had vents that carried sound in odd ways. Usually I'd catch Diane's calls with her marketing firm buddies or Lily plucking at her cello upstairs. Tonight, though, my 18-year-old son sounded like he was unraveling. "Holy hell, Lily, you can't just leave this stuff out," Owen muttered sharply. "What if Dad saw it?" My 16-year-old daughter answered with that teenage smugness that made me want to laugh and groan at once. "Chill, Dad can barely open an app, let alone poke around Mom's tablet." I set my sandpaper aside, my ears perked. The table could wait. "This is beyond messed up," Owen went on, voice tight. "I mean, I knew Mom worked late a lot, but there's got to be dozens of clips here, maybe more." "Don't go tallying them, weirdo," Lily shot back. Look, this isn't a game, Lily. These aren't Mom's work presentations. It's her getting way too close with some guy who's not Dad." The maple grain in front of me went fuzzy. My hands froze on the workbench. "Quiet down," Lily whispered fiercely, "and erase that folder now. Are you crazy? This is proof." "Proof of what?" Owen snapped. "That Mom's been stepping out for who knows how long? That our family's a lie? You want Dad to find out and split up? Say bye to college, genius. Bye to this house." "So we just pretend we didn't see it?" Owen asked. "Wipe it and move on?" Lily's voice turned cold. "Mom's been keeping us afloat for 20 years. Dad makes tables, Owen. They're nice, but let's get real about who pays for our dentist visits." I stood, my knees cracking like old wood. 20 years of marriage, thinking I knew the woman I shared my life with. 2 decades as the steady guy, patching up the house, never questioning Diane's late nights at the firm. "Anyway," Lily went on, "Dad probably senses something deep down. He's not dumb, just turning a blind eye. Guys his age don't want to start from scratch. His age, I'm 42, not 90. But to my teenage daughter, I might as well be a relic." "The guy in those clips," Owen said, "I think it's that Gavin Holt jerk, the one who got the big promotion last year. You remember him from Mom's office party? Perfect hair, gym freak, kept calling Dad buddy like a smug tool." At least my son could spot a fake. I eased up the shed stairs, moving as softly as I could. The kids were in the living room, bent over Diane's fancy tablet. They didn't hear me, too caught up in their moral mess to notice the creaky floorboard by the hall that always groaned under my weight. "Look at these dates," Owen was saying. "This goes back years, Lily, like when I was in middle school." "Which is why we're deleting it and acting like this never happened," Lily insisted. I cleared my throat, and they jumped like they'd been zapped. "Dad!" Lily slammed the tablet shut. "We were just studying at 10:30 on Mom's work tablet." Owen's face was white as snow. "Dad, we can explain." "No need," I said, stepping over and gently lifting the tablet from Lily's hands. "Those old vents carry sound like nobody's business." The silence stretched tight, like a rope about to break. Lily finally spoke. "Dad, we were going to wipe it. We didn't want you to..." "To what?" I cut in. "Find out my wife of 20 years has been sneaking around? Or that my kids think I'm too broke and pathetic to handle it?" I opened the tablet and found the hidden folder Owen mentioned. "That's not what we meant," Owen said fast. "Isn't it?" I scrolled through the files, rows of videos sorted by date, the newest from 3 days back. Guys my age just take what they're given, right, Lily? Too blind or weak to face the truth? Tears pooled in Lily's eyes. "Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it that way." "Then how'd you mean it?" She had nothing to say. I spent the next hour combing through Diane's files while the kids sat, silent and grim, on the couch. The videos were just as Owen described, clear evidence of my wife with Gavin Holt, going back nearly 5 years. But there was more. Text screenshots, email chains, photos. Then I hit the jackpot, a file called Backup Plan, buried deep in a subfolder. It was a detailed log of every affair Diane had during our marriage. Names, dates, places, even some pictures. 20 years of calculated cheating, all cataloged. The earliest entry was from our 2nd year married, when Lily was barely toddling. "Good Lord," I muttered. "Dad?" Owen ventured. "What's that?" I turned the tablet toward them. "Your mom's been keeping a diary, calls it her backup. Probably to protect herself if a lover got pushy or she needed leverage in a divorce." Lily leaned over, her face palling with every line. My God, she logged everything. Every detail. Some entries had Diane's notes, her takes on her flings, her complaints about me, her plans to keep her double life going. One from 3 years ago hit like a punch. Mike's starting to notice the late nights. Gotta toss him a crumb. Maybe a weekend trip. Let him think he's still wanted. Poor guy doesn't know I've been faking it for 15 years. Another, more recent. Gavin thinks I should ditch Mike and marry him. Sweet, but no way I'd swap security for a better fling. Mike pays the bills and stays quiet. Gavin's fun, not a keeper. Dad, Lily whispered, I'm so sorry. I closed the tablet and looked at my kids. I took a good, hard look at my kids. Owen had my square jaw and Diane's sharp, calculating gaze. Lily got her mother's high cheekbones and my knack for blunt truth. They were solid kids, despite being raised by a woman who treated our marriage like a contract and a dad who'd been coasting through life half asleep. You know what's wild? I said, leaning back. You two were right. Deep down, I sensed something was off. I just didn't poke around because it was easier to act like everything was fine. Owen's voice was shaky. What's your next move, Dad? I stood and headed for the stairs. I'm grabbing a bag and leaving your mom a note spelling out what I found and how I found it. Dad, hold up, Lily pleaded. Don't do this. I turned to face them. You made your call when you chose to hide her secrets instead of coming clean with me. You picked her money over the truth. I get it. But now it's my turn to choose. I packed light, some clothes, toiletries, and my laptop. The note I left on Diane's pillow was straight to the point. Ask your mom who really funded your college savings, her paycheck or the dirt she's been collecting on her lovers for 20 years. The tablets on the counter, passwords turning a blind eye. Mike. I drove to my sister Carla's place across town in Spokane, Washington, crashing on her couch, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I'd turned into the kind of guy my own family looked down on so easily. Come morning, my phone lit up with calls and texts from Diane. I swiped them away without a glance. Carla brewed coffee strong enough to wake a coma patient and sat across from me at her kitchen table, waiting for me to spill why I'd shown up at midnight looking like roadkill. So, she said after I laid it all out, your wife's been stepping out for 20 years. Your kids think you're a broke nobody, and you've been living in a dream world. That sums it up? Pretty much, I said. Carla, 5 years my junior, twice divorced, and never one to soften the blow, ran her own bookkeeping business in Lincoln County and had no time for wallowing. What's your plan? She asked. Haven't got one yet. Well, you better get one quick because Diane's going to come at you with all she's got. Marketing execs don't mess around when they're backed into a corner. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Diane. I hit a decline. She's called 43 times since last night, I said. That's panic talking, Carla replied, topping off my coffee. She's probably scrambling to figure out what you know and what you'll do with it. What should I do with it? I asked. Depends, she said. You want payback or you want a clean break? Is there a difference? Oh, Mike, there's a whole world of difference. For the next few days, I stayed at Carla's, trying to think straight. Diane's calls tapered off but got more frantic. The kids sent awkward texts like they were being held at gunpoint. Owen, Dad, please come back. Mom's falling apart. Lily, this is all my fault. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. On Thursday, Carla came home from work with a grim look and a bottle of whiskey. We need to talk, she said, pouring us each a glass. I heard some stuff today. What kind of stuff? The kind that says your wife's already outmaneuvering you. She sat down hard. My friend Rachel works at the courthouse. She says Diane filed a missing person report on you yesterday. I blinked. What? It gets worse. Rachel heard Diane tell the cops you've been acting off lately. Paranoid, maybe having a mental breakdown. I stared at her. She's setting me up. Looks like it, Carla said. Rachel also said Diane's been asking about restraining orders, claiming she's worried about potential domestic issues. I've never touched her, I said. Never even yelled. Doesn't matter. If she can make you look unhinged, she flips the script, makes herself the victim, not the cheating spouse. I downed my whiskey in one go. So what now? You go home tonight, Carla said. Before she can pile on more reports or claims about your headspace, act normal, calm, reasonable, even sorry. Sorry for what? For taking off without a word, for stressing everyone out, for acting rash. Her grin was razor sharp. You play the devoted husband who just needed a breather, and while you're at it, you figure out how to take her down. Carla, I don't know how to play her game. Then you better learn quickly, Mike. Diane's been playing chess while you've been stuck on checkers. She's already covering her bases legally. If you want to walk away with your pride, your kids' respect, or your share of the house, you got to start thinking like her. I drove home that evening, Carla's words echoing in my head. From the outside, our bungalow looked the same. Gray siding, blue shutters, the maple I planted when Owen was born. But it felt like a stranger's house now, a snapshot of a life I didn't live anymore. Diane's car was in the driveway, next to a black Audi I didn't know. I parked on the street, taking a minute to steel myself. Through the living room window, I saw shadows moving. 3, maybe 4 people. When I stepped through the front door, the chatter in the living room cut off like a switch. "Mike," Diane said, appearing in the hallway, her face a polished blend of worry and relief. She looked flawless, as always. Sleek dark hair, tailored blazer, makeup that probably cost more than my monthly grocery bill. Behind her, Owen and Lily sat stiffly on the sofa, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. And there, by the mantel, glass in hand, stood Gavin Holt. "Hey, champ," Gavin said with that smug grin I remembered from the office party. "Good to see you're back." We were getting concerned. The nerve of this guy, sipping my whiskey in my own house, calling me champ while messing around with my wife, knocked the wind out of me. "Gavin stopped by when he heard you'd taken off," Diane said, smooth as silk. "He's been a real friend to us." "I'll bet he has." Her eyes flicked at my tone, but her smile didn't budge. "Kids, head upstairs," she said. "Your dad and I need a private word." Owen and Lily bolted without a sound, leaving me with my wife and her side piece. "I should probably get going," Gavin said, setting his glass down. "Let you two sort this out." "No, stick around," I said, my voice steady, "since you're such a great pal to the family." Gavin glanced at Diane, who gave a tiny shake of her head. "Really, I should go," he said. "This is between you and Diane." "Is it?" I strolled to the bar cart and poured myself a hefty splash of whiskey. "Because it sure seems like you're deep in my family's business." "Mike," Diane said, her tone cautious, "you're clearly upset. Let's talk this through alone." "Oh, I'm upset, but not for the reasons you're thinking." I took a sip, eyeing Gavin. He had that cookie-cutter corporate look, strong jaw, perfect teeth, pricey haircut, the kind of guy who probably tossed around words like leverage at happy hour. "Tell me, Gavin," I said, keeping my voice light. "How long have you been this close with my wife?" "Mike," Diane cut in. "I'm asking Gavin," I said, not breaking eye contact. "Simple question. How long have you two been pals?" Gavin's smirk wavered. "We're just co-workers, Mike. Colleagues." "Colleagues, huh?" I nodded, like I was mulling it over. "So, you make those kinds of videos with all your co-workers, or just the ones with husbands?" The room went silent, heavy as a storm cloud. Diane's face cycled through pale, flushed, then pale again. Gavin looked like he might puke. "I don't know what you mean," Diane said at last, her voice tight. "Oh, you do. Backup plan, right? That's what you called your little archive. Real thorough record keeping, by the way. Ever thought about writing for a newspaper?" Gavin's hand shook as he set his glass down. "This is a misunderstanding." "The only misunderstanding," I said, "is me thinking my wife cared enough about our marriage to keep her flings quiet. But filming them, logging every detail, that's just a slap in the face." "Mike, please," Diane said, her voice softer now. "Let's talk this out calmly." "I'm plenty calm," I said. "Clearer-headed than I've been in years." I drained my whiskey and set the glass down with care. "Here's how this goes. Gavin, you're out of my house and you don't come back. Diane, you pack a bag and find somewhere else to crash tonight. Tomorrow we're having a long talk about how we handle this divorce." "Divorce?" Diane forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Mike, you're overreacting. We can fix this." "Fix 20 years of calculated cheating? Not a chance." Gavin was already edging toward the door. "I'll call you later, Diane." "No," I said, low and firm. "You won't." He froze, hand on the knob. "What? You won't call her? You won't text her? You won't reach out at all? Because if you do, I'll make sure your wife gets every video, every photo, and every line from Diane's little backup plan." Gavin's face turned ashen. "You're bluffing." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a file. "December 20th, last year, your office holiday bash. Sound familiar?" He was out the door before I finished. Diane and I locked eyes across the living room. 20 years of marriage, and she might as well have been a stranger. "You can't do this, Mike," she said finally. "You can't ruin our family over a few slip-ups." "A few slip-ups?" I said. "You've been cheating since year 2 of our marriage. You've cataloged every affair like it's a spreadsheet. You've raised our kids to think I'm nothing. And you call that a few slip-ups?" "I never said you were nothing," she shot back. "No, you just wrote it down." Over and over, in detail. She sank onto the couch, her perfect poise finally cracking. What do you want, Mike? Money? The house? Name it, and I'll give it to you. Just don't make this public. What I want, I said, is for you to realize choices have consequences. For 20 years, you've played games with our marriage, our family, our life. Now it's my move. This isn't a game, she said. You kept a ledger, Diane. Call it your backup. Well, guess what? Your backup just became my proof. I started for the stairs, then paused, glancing back. Pack a bag, be gone by morning, and don't even think about spinning me as the crazy one. I know about the missing person report. I know about your restraining order questions. Try that again, and I'll make sure everyone in Spokane knows exactly who you are. I left her there and headed upstairs to face the kids. Owen and Lily were huddled in Lily's room, whispering like conspirators when I knocked. The murmurs stopped cold. Come in, Lily called. They were perched on her bed, looking like they were awaiting a judge's ruling. I grabbed the desk chair, spun it around, and sat. So, I said, how much did you catch? Enough, Owen admitted. Dad, we're sorry. We should have told you right away. Yeah, you should have, I said, but I get why you didn't. You were looking out for your future, your stability. It's not crazy. Lily looked shocked. You're not pissed at us? Disappointed? Not pissed, I said. You're kids. You shouldn't have been stuck in that spot to begin with. What happens now? Owen asked. Your mom and I are done, I said. It's going to get messy, and it won't be quiet. Brace yourselves. Will we have to pick sides? Lily's voice was barely a whisper. I hope not, I said. But your mom's going to play dirty. She'll try to use you two against me. You need to be ready for that. How? Owen asked. She'll say I'm being irrational, that I'm wrecking the family over something small. Don't buy it. She's going to dangle promises about keeping your life cushy, college tuition, the house, and she'll lean on you to talk me into being reasonable, I told Owen and Lily. They swapped uneasy looks. What do we do, Dad? Owen asked. Do what feels right to you, I said. I'm not going to twist your arm like she will. But don't forget this. Your mom didn't just step out on me. She stabbed our whole family in the back, lying to us every day for 20 years. That's not a slip-up. That's a choice. I started for the door, then stopped. One more thing. If anyone asks about my headspace, my actions, or if I've ever been violent, you tell the truth. Your mom's going to try to make me look unhinged. Don't let her. Dad, Lily called as I hit the hallway. Are you going to be okay? I glanced back at her. She had Diane's looks, but none of her icy edge. Just real worry in her eyes, maybe even love. Maybe I hadn't totally flopped as a dad. I'll be fine, kiddo, I said. Better than fine. Come morning, Diane was gone. A note sat on the kitchen counter. Staying at the Hilton in downtown Spokane. We need to talk this out like grown-ups. Call me. I tossed it in the trash and brewed some coffee. My phone rang while I skimmed the morning paper. How'd it go? Carla asked. About like you'd expect, I said. Gavin hightailed it out, tail between his legs. Diane's holed up at a hotel. Good, Carla said. What's next? I need a lawyer, I reckon. Already handled. My friend Susan Kim's expecting your call today. She's a shark with messy divorces. Carla, I owe you. Save it. Susan's pricey and only takes cases she can win. But if anyone can take on Diane, it's her. Susan Kim's office was in a slick converted brick warehouse in downtown Spokane, all polished wood and leather chairs. She was younger than I figured, maybe mid-30s, with keen eyes and a handshake that could crush a brick. Carla gave me the rundown, she said, settling behind her desk. Your wife's been cheating. You've got proof, and she's already trying to paint you as unstable. That's the gist, I said. Let's see what you got. I spent the next hour walking Susan through Diane's files. She scribbled notes, fired off sharp questions, and let out a low whistle now and then. This is solid, she said finally. Real solid. Your wife screwed up big time keeping such a detailed log. In Washington, infidelity can still sway a divorce case, and this kind of evidence is undeniable. What about her saying I'm off my rocker? I asked. We'll handle it, Susan said. Any history of mental health problems, arrests, or violence? None. Good. We'll pull character references, medical records if needed. Just stay cool and steady through this. Don't give her any fuel. What should I brace for? I asked. Susan leaned back. Diane's going to try to spin the story. She'll say the affairs didn't mean anything, that you're blowing it out of proportion, wrecking the family for no reason. She'll use the kids as pawns and try to make you the bad guy. How do we fight that? By letting her trip over her own lies, Susan said. Execs like Diane are used to bullying their way through, but they're not ready to play defense. We keep the spotlight on her actions, her betrayal, and we make sure everyone sees who she really is. I left Susan's office with something I hadn't felt in weeks, a spark of hope. That afternoon, I swung by Joe's Tavern, a gritty spot near the Spokane River where I'd been grabbing beers with my buddy Joe Carter since high school. Joe was an ex-cop, retired early after catching a bullet in the knee on a domestic call. Now he poured drinks and doled out wisdom to anyone buying him around. "Well, look who's back," Joe said as I walked in. "Heard you've got some home drama. Word spreads quick, especially when your wife's been calling around town, fretting about your mental state." I ordered a beer and spilled the whole story. Joe listened, nodding or shaking his head here and there. 20 years, he said when I was done. "That's ruthless, even for a marketing hotshot. What would you do?" "Me? I'd make sure everyone in Spokane knew what kind of woman she is. But I'm a spiteful old coot. You're supposed to be the good guy." "Maybe I'm done playing nice," I said. Joe grinned. "Now you're talking. What do you need?" "Info," I said. "Diane's going to try to trash my name. I need to know what she's saying, who she's talking to, what story she's weaving." "I can do that," Joe said. "Still got buddies on the force, contacts around town. Give me a few days." "Thanks, Joe." "Don't thank me yet. If we're playing this game, we're playing to win. Diane wants to fight dirty? We'll show her what dirty looks like." The rest of the week, I fell into a rhythm. I worked on the Wilson's dining room set during the day, came back to an empty house at night, and ignored Diane's relentless calls and texts. Her messages swung from mad to begging to threatening, and back again. The kids drifted in and out like shadows, crashing at friends' places or with Diane at the hotel, popping by for clothes or books. We barely talked, but I could see the toll on their faces. They were stuck in a mess they didn't understand and couldn't fix. On Friday night, Joe called with news. "Your wife's been busy," he said. "She's told half of Spokane you're having a midlife meltdown. The other half thinks you might be trouble." "Trouble how?" "She's keeping it vague. Hints, worried glances when folks ask about you. You know the type." "What else?" "She's been meeting with lawyers, not just divorced ones. Hired a private eye, too. Guy named Vince Russo. Shady character, specializes in digging up dirt on straying spouses." "I'm not straying," I said. "Doesn't matter," Joe replied. "She's building a case." "Vince Russo's the kind who'll dig up something real or just invent it," Joe said. "That's his game." A cold knot tightened in my gut. "What kind of something?" "Could be anything. Hidden accounts, gambling habits, flings, drinking issues. Russo's got a creative streak." "So what's my move?" I asked. Joe's chuckle was grim. "You hit first. Remind everyone in Spokane who the real victim is here." That night, I sat in my quiet house mulling over Joe's words. Diane was already miles ahead, spinning me as the bad guy in our story. Maybe it was time to rewrite the script. Monday morning, I called in sick on the Wilson job and drove to the glassy high-rise of Kessler and Holt, the marketing firm where Diane worked. The place screamed money, all sleek metal and towering windows. I'd only been there twice in 20 years, once for a holiday party, once to grab Diane when her car broke down. The receptionist, a young woman with flawless makeup and a polished smile, glanced up as I approached. "I'm here to see Gavin Holt," I said. "Do you have an appointment?" "Nope, but he'll want to talk. Tell him Mike Tanner's here." She made a quick call, murmured into her headset, then eyed me with curiosity. "He'll be down shortly." Gavin showed up 5 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept in a week, hair messy, fancy suit rumpled. "Mike," he said, scanning the lobby nervously. "What's this about?" "We need a private chat," I said. "I don't think that's smart." "I think it's really smart, unless you want your coworkers to hear this." His face paled. "There's a cafe across the street." We walked over in silence. The place was mostly empty. A couple of college kids on laptops, an old guy with a newspaper. Gavin picked a table in the far corner, as far from ears as he could get. "What do you want?" he asked, voice low. "I want you to get the picture," I said, settling into my chair. "You're messing with a married woman. That woman kept a detailed log of your affair, videos included. And now her husband's got all that dirt." "Diane said you wouldn't." "Diane says a lot, and most of it's lies." I pulled out my phone, scrolling to a video file. "December 18th, your office after the holiday party. Ring any bells?" Gavin's hands trembled. "What's your price?" "Stay away from my wife, completely. No calls, no texts, nothing." "We work together," he stammered. "I can't just..." "Figure it out," I cut in. "Switch teams, jump to another firm. I don't care. But if I catch wind you've contacted Diane after today, I'm sending every video, every photo, to your wife, your boss, and the state licensing board. You wouldn't. I leaned in. You think this is a bluff, Gavin? You think you can mess with my family and walk away clean? Let me break it down. My marriage is done. My kids barely look at me. Diane's trying to trash my name. I've got nothing to lose. But you've got a career, a marriage, a reputation. Who's got more at stake here? He stared at me, long and hard. You're not what I thought. What did you think? Diane said you were soft, spineless, that you'd never push back. Like I said, Diane lies. I stood. Stay away from her, Gavin. This is your only heads up. I left him there and drove across town to the Hilton where Diane was staying. The desk clerk, a middle-aged woman with warm eyes, gave me a kind look when I asked for Diane's room. I'm sorry, sir. I can't share guest info. I'm her husband, Mike Tanner. Her face softened. Mrs. Tanner said you might stop by. She's in room 408. I rode the elevator up, my pulse hammering. This was it. The talk that had set the tone for how ugly this divorce would get. Diane opened the door in a hotel robe, hair tied back in a messy bun. Without her usual makeup, she looked older, almost frail. For a split second, I saw the woman I fell for 25 years ago. Mike, she said, startled. I didn't expect you. We gotta talk, I said. She stepped aside to let me in. The room was chaotic. Clothes strewn about, empty coffee cups, legal papers scattered across the bed. You look rough, I said. Thanks, she muttered. You don't look so hot yourself. We stood there, two people who'd shared a life for 2 decades, now struggling to string words together. I saw Gavin this morning, I said finally. Her face tightened. What did you tell him? To stay away from you for good. You had no right. I've got every right. He's been with my wife for 5 years. That gives me some say. Mike, sit down, she said. Let's talk this through like adults. Adults? I said. Diane, you cheated on me for 20 years. You kept a ledger of every fling like you were running a side hustle. You raised our kids to think I'm a nobody, and now you want to talk like adults? I never called you a nobody, she said. No, you just wrote it down over and over. I pulled out my phone, opening one of her files. Mike's asking about the late nights. Gotta toss him a treat. Maybe a weekend trip. Let him think he's still got it. Poor guy doesn't know I've been faking it for 15 years. Diane shut her eyes. You weren't supposed to read that. What was I supposed to see? The doting wife act? The perfect mom routine? The big shot exec who just works late? I was shielding you, she said. From what? The truth? Getting hurt? Reality? I stared at her. You were shielding yourself, Diane. From consequences. From owning up. From choosing between our marriage and your flings. She sank onto the bed. What do you want, Mike? What'll it take to end this? A divorce, I said. A fair one. 50-50 split on everything. Joint custody of the kids and no more lies. That's it. And the files? She asked, a flicker of hope in her eyes. They stay locked away, as long as you don't try to trash my name or call me unstable. She nodded slowly. You'd keep it quiet? I'd rather keep it quiet, I said. But if you spin me as the villain, turn the kids against me, or push that I'm dangerous, all bets are off. I get it, she said, voice low. Do you? Because you've already started whispering about my mental state. You've hired Vince Russo to dig up dirt. You filed that missing person report to make me look erratic. Her cheeks flushed. How'd you? I've got friends too, Diane, I said. People who've known me for years and don't buy your story about me losing it. Mike, you were just trying to spin the story, I said, staring at Diane. Make yourself the victim instead of the cheating spouse. But here's the deal. I'm not letting you pull it off. I headed for the door, then glanced back. You've got 24 hours to call off your private eye and quit whispering about my mental state. If you don't, I'll hold a press conference and let everyone in Spokane see who you really are. You wouldn't dare, she said. Try me. I left her there and drove home, my hands shaky from the rush. I'd never faced anyone down like that before, never thrown out ultimatums or demanded control. But damn, it felt good, like I was finally grabbing the reins of my own life after 20 years. My phone buzzed as I pulled into the driveway. Susan Kim. Mike, we need to talk. Can you swing by my office? What's wrong? Just get here. Susan's face was grim when I arrived at her office 20 minutes later. Sit, she said. We've got trouble. What kind? Diane filed for divorce this morning, irreconcilable differences, and she's gunning for full custody of the kids. On what grounds, I asked, my stomach sinking. She's claiming you're erratic, potentially dangerous, vanishing for days, threatening her and her coworkers, showing signs of mental instability. That's insane, I said. I've never threatened her. I've never laid a hand on anyone. I believe you, Susan said, but she's built a convincing story, and she's a sharp exec who knows how to sell it. So what do we do? Susan leaned forward. We hit back hard. But first, did you say anything today that could sound like a threat? I thought back to my run-ins with Gavin and Diane. I told Gavin to stay away from her, or I'd expose their affair. I told Diane to stop spreading lies or I'd make her files public. Susan sighed. Damn it, Mike. That's exactly what she needed. What do you mean? She'll spin those as blackmail, intimidation, proof you're unhinged. It feeds her narrative perfectly. I sank back in the chair, feeling like a fool. So she wins? Not yet, Susan said, her smile turning sharp, almost predatory. We're going to show her what a real lawyer can do when they're fired up. The restraining order hearing was set for Friday morning. Susan spent the week prepping our defense while I tried to keep some kind of normal routine. The kids were with Diane at the Hilton, and the restraining order barred me from contacting them directly. It's temporary, Susan assured me. We'll sort this out in court. But I could see the worry in her eyes. Diane had played her hand like a pro, building a case that painted me as a loose cannon, then baiting me into saying things she could twist into threats. Now she was the victim, and I was the unhinged ex. Thursday night, Joe called with a game changer. That private eye Diane hired, Vince Russo, he said, he's been sniffing around town about you. But here's the kicker. He's also asking about her other lovers, past and present. What for, I asked. Sounds like Diane's got him cleaning up her messes, making sure her affairs don't come back to haunt her. Cleaning up how? The kind of cleanup that makes evidence vanish. Russo's good at that. A chill ran through me. Are you saying she's trying to wipe the files? I'm saying she's making sure you can't use them. Russo's been in touch with at least 3 guys from her records, probably paying them to shut up or scaring them into it. Can we prove it? Maybe, Joe said. I've got a buddy who owes me one. Ex-FBI, now in private security. He might be able to flip this on Diane and her hired snoop. Friday morning rolled in, gray and drizzly, matching my mood. Susan met me on the courthouse steps in Spokane, sharp in a navy suit, toting a briefcase worth more than my truck. Stay cool, she said as we headed inside. Speak only when asked and let me handle the rest. What if the judge buys her story? Then we go to Plan B. What's Plan B? She smirked. You don't want to know. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood-paneled, harsh fluorescent lights making everyone look washed out. Diane sat at the plaintiff's table with her lawyer, a wiry guy in a pricey suit who looked like he'd never cracked a smile. When the judge walked in, we all stood. Judge Linda Hawkins, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and piercing eyes that seemed to catch every detail, took her seat. Be seated, she said. We're here for a temporary restraining order filed by Diane Tanner against her husband, Mike Tanner. Counselor Evans, proceed. Diane's lawyer stood, launching into a polished spiel about my so-called erratic behavior. He painted me as a man unraveling, disappearing without a word, threatening Diane and her colleagues, showing signs of a mental breakdown. Your Honor, Evans said, Mrs. Tanner fears for her safety and her children's safety. Mr. Tanner has made explicit threats to ruin her career and reputation if she doesn't meet his demands. What evidence supports these claims? Judge Hawkins asked. We have testimony from Mr. Gavin Holt, a colleague of Mrs. Tanner's, who was approached by Mr. Tanner this week. Mr. Holt will testify that Mr. Tanner threatened to destroy his career and marriage if he didn't cut contact with Mrs. Tanner. I started to speak, but Susan's hand on my arm stopped me. We also have Mrs. Tanner's testimony, Evans went on, stating that Mr. Tanner threatened to hold a press conference to ruin her reputation if she doesn't comply with his divorce demands. Judge Hawkins peered at me over her glasses. Mr. Tanner, did you make those statements? I started to answer, but Susan cut in, rising beside me. Your Honor, Mr. Tanner will address those claims in time, but first we'd like to present evidence to provide context for these alleged threats. Proceed, Ms. Kim, the judge said. Susan opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick file. Your Honor, Mr. Tanner uncovered evidence that his wife has been engaging in multiple affairs throughout their 20-year marriage. Mrs. Tanner maintained meticulous records of these affairs, including explicit videos and photos. Evans, Diane's lawyer, shot to his feet. Objection. This is irrelevant to whether Mr. Tanner poses a threat. Overruled, Judge Hawkins said. I'll allow it. Continue, Ms. Kim, Susan pressed on. Furthermore, Mrs. Tanner hired a private investigator, not to look into her husband, but to silence the men she's been involved with. We have proof this investigator has been tampering with witnesses and destroying evidence. Those are serious accusations, Judge Hawkins said. What evidence do you have? Susan produced a small audio device. We have recordings of conversations between Mrs. Tanner's investigator and several of her former lovers, where he offers cash for their silence. Evans jumped up again. Your Honor, we haven't had a chance to review this so-called evidence. You'll get your shot on cross-examination, the judge replied. Play the recording, Ms. Kim. The audio was crisp, Vince Russo's voice offering money to a man named Carl Weaver to deny any connection with Diane Tanner. Weaver sounded uneasy but agreed. This was recorded yesterday, Susan said. Mr. Weaver reached out to Mr. Tanner's team after Russo approached him, worried about the legal fallout of taking money to lie. Judge Hawkins turned to Diane, whose face had gone ghostly pale. Mrs. Tanner, were you aware your investigator was doing this? Diane stood slowly. Your Honor, I hired Mr. Russo to look into my husband's behavior. I had no knowledge of these other actions. Your Honor, Susan interjected, we have phone logs showing multiple calls between Mrs. Tanner and Mr. Russo discussing these specific contacts with her former lovers. Evans whispered frantically to Diane, who looked like she might faint. Ms. Kim, Judge Hawkins said, what's your client asking for? We request the restraining order be denied, Your Honor. Mr. Tanner's statements to Mr. Holt and Mrs. Tanner weren't threats of harm, but efforts to protect himself from harassment and manipulation. Mrs. Tanner has engaged in a pattern of deceit to dodge accountability in these proceedings. The judge studied her papers for a long moment. Mrs. Tanner, she said finally, I'm troubled by what I've heard. The evidence suggests you've been less than honest in your petition for this restraining order. Your Honor, Evans began, but the judge cut him off. I'm not done, Counselor, she said sharply. Mrs. Tanner, you've claimed your husband is unstable and dangerous, yet the evidence points to you engaging in calculated deception and possible witness tampering. That undermines your claims about Mr. Tanner's character. Diane was in tears now, her face streaked. Your Honor, please, I'm just trying to protect my kids. By misleading this court, by hiring investigators to coerce witnesses, by filing false reports? Judge Hawkins shook her head. I don't think so. Susan spoke up. Your Honor, we request Mrs. Tanner be held in contempt for filing a frivolous restraining order and for potential perjury. Motion granted, the judge said. Mrs. Tanner, you're held in contempt of court. The restraining order is denied. I'm also referring this case to the district attorney's office for investigation into possible perjury and witness tampering. The gavel cracked like a whip, echoing through the room. As we left the courthouse, I felt like I could finally breathe. How'd you get that recording? I asked Susan. Joe's ex-FBI buddy, she said. Turns out Russo's been on their watch list for a while. They were happy to help set up a sting. What's next? We go on the attack, she said. Diane just handed us everything we needed to bury her in the divorce. And the kids, they'll have to decide who to trust, their lying mother or the father who's been telling the truth. That night I sat in my house now, with the restraining order tossed, and waited for Owen and Lily. They showed up around 8, looking lost and shaken. Dad, Lily said hesitantly, can we talk? Always, I said. We settled in the living room, the same spot where this whole mess kicked off weeks ago. Mom told us about court today, Owen said. She said you made up stories to make her look bad. What do you think? I asked. They glanced at each other. We don't know what to believe anymore, Lily said slowly. Then don't just believe, I said. Think for yourselves. Look at the facts. Make your own call. The stuff you showed us that first night, Owen said. Mom's files. Was it all real? Every bit, I said. The videos, the logs, all of it. Lily's eyes welled up. Why would she do that? Why keep records of it? I don't know, kiddo, I said. I wish I did. What's going to happen to us? Owen asked. You two are going to be okay, I said. This is between me and your mom. Doesn't change how much I love you. But everything's going to change, right? Lily said. The house, our family, everything. Some things will, I admitted. But the big stuff, me being your dad, loving you, being here for you, that's not going anywhere. We talked for another hour, and for the first time in years, I really saw my kids. They were sharp, thoughtful, able to handle the truth, even if it hurt. Owen and Lily had been shielding Diane, not because they thought she was in the right, but because they feared losing their security. Now with the truth laid bare, They could finally choose for themselves. "Dad," Owen said as they headed upstairs, "I'm proud of you for standing up. You didn't just let her walk all over you." "Thanks, son," I said. Lily paused. "You gonna be okay?" I glanced around the living room, the furniture we'd picked out together, the photos from family trips, the life we'd stitched together over 20 years. "Yeah," I said, "I'm gonna be better than okay." The divorce dragged on for 3 months, but the outcome was never in question. Once Diane's credibility took a nosedive, her lawyer had no choice but to hammer out a deal. She got half the assets, as Washington law required, but I kept the house, got joint custody of the kids, and most importantly, walked away with my name intact. Gavin Holt bolted to his firm's Seattle office a week after the restraining order hearing. His wife filed for divorce a month later. Vince Russo got slapped with witness tampering charges and lost his investigator's license. Diane moved to Tacoma and took a job at a smaller marketing firm. She called the kids regularly, but rarely asked to talk to me. When she did, our chats were short and clipped. "You got what you wanted," she said during one call. "Hope you're satisfied." "I got what I deserved," I shot back. Big difference. The kids handled it better than I expected. Owen opted for a gap year before college, partly to save money, partly to work with me in my woodworking shop. Lily dove into her junior year with fierce determination, like she was channeling her hurt into straight A's. "I'm never getting married," she declared one night while we chopped veggies for dinner. "Why not?" I asked. "Because marriage is just two people lying to each other until one gets caught." "That's not what it's supposed to be," I said, "but it's what you and Mom had." I couldn't argue with that. Carla swung by often, saying it was to check on the kids, but really to make sure I wasn't crumbling. "You seem different," she said one Saturday while we weeded the backyard. "Different how?" "Tougher, sharper, like you've got a purpose." 20 years married to a woman who thought I was a loser will do that, I said. "Do you miss her?" I mulled it over. Did I miss Diane, the woman I thought I'd married, or the one she turned out to be? "I miss the idea of her," I said finally. "I miss believing in something that wasn't real." "That's not the same." "No," Carla agreed, "it's not." 6 months after the divorce was final, I was sanding a table in my shop when Owen came in with his laptop. "Dad, you got to see this." He pulled up a news article from the Tacoma News Tribune. Diane had been arrested for embezzling from her new firm, skimming client accounts to keep up her lifestyle post-divorce. "There's more," Owen said. "I did some digging. That backup plan file she kept? I think she was blackmailing some of those guys, married execs, local politicians, big shot CEOs. How do you know?" "Bank records," he said. "Deposits that didn't match her salary, going back years. She was getting paid to stay quiet about the affairs." I stared at the screen, trying to wrap my head around it. My wife of 20 years wasn't just a cheater. She was a criminal, building her life on lies, manipulation, and extortion. "You okay, Dad?" Owen asked. "Yeah," I said, "just taking it in." "Should we tell Lily?" "She'll hear soon enough. It'll be all over the news." Owen shut the laptop. "Dad, I'm glad you found out about her. It's been rough, but we're better off without her." "You think so?" "I know it. She was toxic, Dad. She was dragging us all down." That night, I called Susan Kim to ask about the legal fallout of Diane's arrest. "It doesn't touch your divorce settlement," she said, "but it proves you were right to fight back. If you'd bought her story and backed off, she'd probably still be running scams and stealing cash." "I didn't know she was a criminal when I fought back," I said. "I just knew she was a liar." "Sometimes that's enough," Susan said. "Calling out one lie can unravel them all. Thanks for trusting me, Mike. Cases like yours remind me why I do this job." A year later, I was carving a custom dining set for a client in Bellingham when Lily came home from school with news. "Mom called," she said. "She's getting out of prison next month." Diane had served 18 months for embezzlement and lost her marketing credentials for good. "How do you feel about that?" I asked. "Honestly, nothing. I don't feel anything for her anymore." "She's still your mom." "Not really," Lily said. "A mom looks out for her kids. She used us as cover while she lied, cheated, and stole. That's not a mom. That's just the woman who gave birth to us." Lily had grown up fast in the last 2 years. Harder, more skeptical, but honest in a way that cut through the fog. "She wants to see us when she's out," she added. "What did you say?" "I told her I'd think about it, but I probably won't. There's no point." "The point might be letting go," I said. "Forgiving." "I've let go," she said. "I don't need to forgive her to move on." Owen felt the same. He was full-time in my shop now, learning the craft, talking about designing his own furniture line. "We're better off without her," he said. "Why go backward?" I couldn't fault their reasoning, but part of me felt a pang for Diane. She'd torched her own life, burned every bridge, lost everything that mattered. She was alone now in a way I'd never been, even in the worst moments of our divorce. But those were her choices: lies over truth, schemes over honesty, self-interest over family. As Carla would say, she'd made her bed. Now she had to sleep in it. 2 years after the divorce, I met someone. Owen and Lily had been covering for Diane, not because they believed she was right, but because they were scared of losing their footing. Now, with the truth out in the open, they could finally make their own calls. "Dad," Owen said as they headed upstairs, "I respect you for pushing back. You didn't just let her steamroll you." "Thanks, kid," I said. Lily lingered. "You gonna be all right?" I glanced around the living room, the couch we'd picked out, the framed photos from road trips, the life we'd pieced together over 20 years. "Yeah," I said, "I'm gonna be better than all right." Her name was Rachel, a math teacher at the high school where Lily was a senior. She was divorced too, with a teenage daughter, and she got what it meant to rebuild after betrayal. "I'm not after anything heavy," I told her after our third date. "Good," she said, smiling. "Me neither. I'm after something honest." "What's the difference?" "Heavy's about promising forever. Honest is about being real right now." I like that outlook. After 20 years of vows that turned out to be smoke, truth in the moment felt like a game changer. Rachel met the kids slowly. No pressure, no big expectations. She didn't try to step into Diane's shoes or patch up our family. She was just herself, a warm, sharp woman who made me laugh and pushed me to be better. "I like her," Lily said after Rachel had been around for 6 months. "Why's that?" "She's real, doesn't fake it," Lily said. "And you're happier with her?" "How do you know?" "You hum when you're working now. You never did that before." She was right. I hummed, sang along to the radio, and looked forward to the day. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I was genuinely content. The final showdown came 3 years after the divorce, on a rainy October evening in Spokane. I was locking up the shop when a car rolled into the driveway, a beat-up Toyota I didn't recognize. Diane stepped out, looking worn thin by prison and shame. Her hair was cropped short, flecked with gray, and she wore a plain jacket and jeans, a far cry from her old designer get-ups. I met her at the shop door. "Hello, Mike," she said. "Can we talk?" I thought about shutting her down, but curiosity got the better of me. "Come in." She glanced around the shop, taking in the new tools, the tidy workbench, the projects in progress. "Business looks good," she said. "It's steady," I replied. "What do you want, Diane?" She perched on a stool, looking brittle. "I want to say I'm sorry for the lies, the cheating, how I treated you, how I tried to ruin you in the divorce." "All right, you've said it. I also want to explain." I raised my hand. "No, I don't need your reasons. I don't care why you did it. I've moved on and I'm not digging up the past." "The kids won't see me," she said, her voice breaking. "That's their call. They hate me." "They don't hate you," I said. "They just don't trust you. There's a difference." Tears slid down her face and she swiped them away. "I lost everything, Mike. My job, my reputation, my family. I've got nothing." "You had choices, Diane," I said. "Every step, you had options. You chose to cheat, to lie, to keep a ledger that could wreck lives. You chose to paint me as crazy. You chose to steal from your clients. Everything that happened to you came from what you decided to do." "I know," she whispered. "Do you? Because it sounds like you're fishing for pity, like you want me to feel bad for you." I paused, thinking it over. Did I pity Diane, the woman who'd shared my life for 20 years while deceiving me? Who raised our kids to see me as a nobody? Who tried to trash my name to hide her crimes? "No," I said finally. "I don't feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for the woman I thought I married, but she was never real. You were never her." "Mike, please." "You want forgiveness to ease your guilt," I said. "You want me to say it's okay, that we can be civil, that the kids will come around. But I'm not doing that. You burn this bridge, Diane. You don't get to rebuild it just because you're alone." She stood, her face crumpling. "I loved you, you know, in my own way." "No, you didn't," I said. "You loved what I stood for. Stability, a safety net, someone who wouldn't dig too deep. But you never loved me." "That's not true." "It is, and you know it." She walked to the door, then turned back. "Are you happy, Mike? Was ruining me worth it?" "I didn't ruin you," I said. "You did that yourself. I just refused to sync with you." "Are you happy?" she pressed. I thought of Rachel. The kids, my shop, the life I'd carved out from the wreckage. Yeah, I said. For the first time in 20 years, I'm truly happy. She nodded like she'd expected that and walked into the rain. I watched her car fade away, then locked the shop and headed inside. Owen was grilling burgers in the kitchen. Lily was sprawled at the table with her textbooks. Rachel was coming over later for a movie night. Tomorrow I had 2 client meetings and a delivery lined up. It was a good life. Not flawless, not without its knots, but honest, grounded in truth instead of lies. Those brutal months of uncovering Diane's betrayal and fighting through the divorce taught me something. Sometimes you've got to let the fake stuff burn to save yourself. Sometimes the only way to build something real is to tear down everything false. Diane had been the shaky foundation of my life for 20 years. Cutting her out hurt, but what I built in her place was stronger, truer, worth more than anything we'd ever had.